What's going on, people? So before we get into this video here, okay, by Pink Shade. Now this video is available on YouTube, okay? I will leave the link down below if you want to see the full thing. But in this one, obviously, I've just taken out certain clips that I want to talk about. And yesterday, Jamal was live. And when he was live on Instagram, he spoke about how Veronica pretty much had thrown him under the bus in this one. So what's going to happen is I'm going to do this video. Once I upload this video, I'm then going to create the next one of the one Jamal responding to this video, okay? And then, of course, after that, you can then watch that one and find out exactly, you know, obviously what Jamal had to say based on what Veronica says in this episode here. Now, with that being said, please do make sure you start by hitting that like button. And also, please do start to subscribe, because I know there's a lot of people that come here, they watch the channel, but they don't always subscribe. Reasons being, who knows, but it'd be very good if you can help the channel grow, because obviously right now we're nearly at that 50k mark. So if we can get to that 50k mark, that would be absolutely amazing. Now, with that being said, let's get into exactly what went down in this interview that Veronica had. And shout out to the host as well.
So let's talk about you meeting Jamal. I mean, obviously you met Jamal through the show. You didn't just like bump into him on the street somewhere.
Yeah. I saw him on a pillow talk on Kim's, you know, I think we had seen him earlier in the season, but when that man came out on that tell-all stage, on Kim's first tell-all, in his like, it was like, all of this, yes. And I remember telling him at the time, I was like, I feel badly. I was like, I think he's like 25. And he was at the time of filming, but by the time it aired, he was like 27. So
okay.
I was like, I can maybe work with this.
She does realize that if he was 25, and then by the time he filmed he was 27, she does realize that she would have aged 2 years as well. So technically it makes no difference. But anyway, so I just found that comment so funny. She says as if like she didn't age 2 years while he did too. But anyway, let's get into it.
But yeah, I saw him on the tell-all first. And so I had made a comment on Pillow Talk, and then he watched the Pillow Talk and kind of freaked out. And the really funny thing is actually he had DM'd me a couple times and I didn't see him. I'm not great about DMs, Mary Payne and Bungie. Yeah. I'm not great about DMs. I try to get to a couple every day, but I'm just not great about the DMs. So he at one point DM'd me, and then I saw it and I was like, oh, I have missed like a few other DMs. Which we saw on, I think, the first episode or episode 2 of this season. I was actually, girl, I was steaming my face. I was doing my skin mask. I was doing my self-care Sunday. Yeah. And like, tap the link, buy this steamer. She's great. And then he responded and he was like, it's the eyes for me. And I was like, I'm trying to see my face here. I'm not trying to find a man. But that's really how it all started.
And then you guys started doing like a commuter relationship because he's in San Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So have you met Kimberly?
I have met Kimberly.
And she seems like a good time.
Kim is very sweet and she has a very fun time.
Okay. And is Kimberly dating? Are we going to get her on the single life sometime? That would be
I don't know. As far as I know, Kimberly is single.
Okay.
And so I think she would be excellent for a future edition of The Single Life.
Now, you probably can't say, but unless it's out there in the world. Now, are you and Jamal still an item?
We are going to have to stay tuned and
wait and see.
And wait.
If you ask me, basically, based on what we've seen so far, you know, in terms of the activities of social media, you know, obviously even like this and Jamal speaking out, I've got a feeling that these two may not longer be together. And to be honest with you, I just don't know how they could be. I think this relationship is a very hard relationship to survive, you know, with the interference that involves Tim mostly, to be honest with you, as well as whatever pillow talks that Veronica has with Jamal and whatever pillow talks that she seems to have with Tim, because, you know, these two are at a point where there's a dislike, but nobody actually knows. Well, we know that Tim started off by not necessarily being kind towards Jamal, but at the same time, it feels like as if this little thing is continued, and the only person that's in the middle of it is Veronica. But we'll get into that because, yeah.
Wait and see and find out.
Okay. Well, if you were still an item, could the two of you go and pillow talk together?
You know, never say never. They love to like mix things up sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Now on the show, I gotta say, and I'm being honest with you, Jamal is coming off like a jerk. He is coming off like a jerk. He comes across like I'm too young to settle down. I'm never gonna move here. This town is boring, and I don't like it. I don't like it
either.
Do you know what I really dislike? I really dislike this narrative where people are actually saying that Jamal is this and that, because, you know, and the reason why I don't like this narrative is because I feel like it's quite unfair. I'm not saying that it's incorrect. I just think it's unfair. Reason being is because, you see, Veronica's the one that has decided to be in a relationship with Jamal. Now, let's not forget, the first time that Jamal came on the scene as Veronica's, you know, person, at the time they were just FBs, okay? Just F buddies, right? No worries. And because of that, that is something that Tim did not like. And that's why Tim expressed how he felt at the time so strongly about how he just didn't agree with this. And to be fair, I'd say more at the time that his feelings were probably more towards Veronica, but I feel like the way he said it came across as if he was coming after Jamal more for the fact that Jamal didn't want anything serious. But at the end of the day, though, people forget that Jamal had made abundantly clear to Veronica what he wanted. He said, I don't want anything serious. But Veronica's the one that still wanted to continue, and she still wanted to mess about with him, even though that she had already expressed in the last season of Tell-All that, the last season of Single Life, that she was looking for someone serious. So at the end of the day, people can say it's coming across like this and that, but people are also forgetting the transition that's happened since The very first time we saw Jamal and Veronica together, Jamal at the time said he only wanted to be F buddies. Veronica said that she was happy with it. Now, since then, we fast forward to now, and Jamal has now gone from wanting to be F buddies to now being like, you know what, I actually want to try something serious with you. So I don't know where this narrative comes from of the fact that he has this attitude of, I don't want to be serious, when literally right now, their whole relationship in this season has been based on them actually being serious. Now, of course, there were definitely certain things going on in the relationship right now that I don't agree with on Jamal's behalf, and things like texting. Obviously, communication is very bad on his side, and I completely get that. But people need to stop acting as if this guy hasn't actually made a transition, because he has. He literally went from being, I only want to be your F buddy, to now being, I actually want to see if we can go somewhere else. And he's been completely transparent the whole time. I would completely understand if he was lying the whole time, if let's just say the whole time he said, I want something serious, but really into it, he just wanted to be an F buddy. That would have completely understand. But the guy's been completely transparent. But, whatever. We'll run with these narratives that Jamal is this and that. And like I said, some of it is true, but I feel like the perception is coming from, I don't agree with.
Okay. I don't know why he's been trash talking Charlotte. That's the funny thing too. So he actually went to school in Virginia. Yeah. So his friends that we just saw in the last episode, Virginia and Charlotte are very similar. I have lots of friends.
I live in Virginia, so that's why I was like, why are you shit talking Charlotte? Charlotte's great.
Yeah, and Virginia's great, and they're both very similar. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit confused by that. I will say too, when Jamal and I met, he was actually still living in New York. So he had recently moved after we met, he had recently moved to San Diego to be with Kim. So I think there's also something there where he's like, I just got back to the West Coast. Like, I'm trying to figure out which way is up and down, and and I am in no way pressuring him. Let's put that out there. I am not pressuring him. I have Chloe at home. Like me, it's something that, we're gonna see again. We're gonna see where things go. We're gonna take our time. But I don't know why he is so adamantly against Charlotte.
So someone answered this. I don't know why the screen's gone black. Hold on a minute.
Okay.
Just want to make sure that I didn't that it's gonna come back. But this is the thing. She talks about how, I'm not trying to pressure him, but yet she'll say, but I don't know why he's got an issue with Charlotte. This is the thing that I find quite annoying about their relationship. I feel like there's so much blame towards Jamal and how his attitude is, but people are literally being blinded to Veronica's role in this whole situation. Because you understand something, right? If Veronica is a woman of a certain age and she's moved someone younger, she should be someone who's intelligent enough to recognize certain things that are not healthy for her. But at the end of the day, she has chosen, because Veronica has shown us how intelligent she can be when it comes to men. She did that last season with the previous guy, okay? Give or take. But either way, though, we're now in this situation with Jamal. And at the end of the day, if Jamal's coming up with certain things or he's behaving in a certain way, people have to understand that's probably because Veronica has allowed these things to happen. She's allowed this attitude to happen, because really and truly, you can't tell me that there is not women in this world that if they feel like a man is acting a certain way, that they won't slam him down, they won't say certain things. But I generally feel like Veronica's the kind of person that says something, but then she sugarcoat it. And that's something that I've noticed about her quite a lot throughout the season, and also especially in this video in particular. And that's something else you're going to pick up on, because each time the host asks her a question, the answers are very, let me protect myself, but let me kind of just fiddle around with it a little bit. Because the answer she's given, like, talking about, I'm not trying to pressure him to come and see me, because I have to look at my daughter, which is basically deflected. And then at the same time, you're like, but I don't know why he's got an issue with Charlotte. Well, that's interesting, because that's interesting, because why haven't you spoken about that? Because you see, when Jamal speaks about not wanting to move, and that's something that we'll cover in the next video, he's quite, I wouldn't say he's descriptive about it, but he gives like an actual answer. And I feel like even in the season itself, in the cutscene, when he talks about moving, he kind of really gives us an answer why he doesn't. But the fact that Veronica acts as if he hasn't really given her an answer is very strange to me. I don't know. I'm just saying, I just feel like people aren't necessarily watching Veronica's movements as well, because she's got a big part to play in this whole thing that's going on with Jamal and Tim anyway. But yeah, we'll pretend as if that didn't happen. But we continue.
Okay, so Tim also mentioned on the show, he made a point of letting us know that Jamal has no job. So what's the story on that? That you're dating a guy with no job?
Okay, so I'm glad you asked me so I can clear up this rumor, because I know there's been a he said going on.
Yeah.
So when I met Jamal, he had a job in New York. When he relocated, he left that job in New York. And at the time that Tim said that, he had been out of work for quite some time. Because he had, again, moved to San Diego. He was helping, kind of helping Kim with the house. She ended up selling her house, which was like her childhood house, the one you've seen on camera, where she had lived with her mom and all of that. So I know it was really difficult for her. So he was helping her with that. So, Tim wasn't wrong. He was unemployed, but I'm not trying to take care of anybody. I'm all the way grown and have a job. So
it's quite interesting. Tim says that Jamal doesn't have a job. Veronica doesn't stand up for Jamal by saying, well, no, that's not necessarily the case. He just hasn't had a job because of this and that. Jamal then makes a comment about Chloe towards Tim not being a father of the year or whatever. And Veronica at the end, she could have been like, no. But no, I don't want to say too much because she's going to get into that whole thing anyway throughout this video. So we'll touch that topic then. But I'm just saying that it's interesting that when certain things are said, Veronica has all the information to stand up for both sides, but she doesn't. She allows it all to play out. I just want to let that sink in there because is it fair for Tim to say that Jamal hasn't got a job just because he didn't have a job at that time? Because it came across as if like Jamal hasn't had a job for like forever. But clearly, if Veronica knows that he's a working man, if she knows that he's somebody that, you know, had a job, but he hasn't got a job for this reason, then why not just tell Tim at the time, because we saw this on screen, right? Why not say this to Tim at the time, hey, like, just so you know, I know he hasn't got a job right now, but he will have a job. Because the whole conversation that her and Tim had about him having a job, she didn't utter a single word about the fact that he was going to get a job anyway, and the fact that he had a job. It's just that this is the situation right now. And also, she never uttered this. Let's play what happens next.
So, and it's funny because there was a lot of times that, you know, he would call me and tell me he was going on a job interview or taking a job interview in LA or something like that. So I also learned how close LA and San Diego are.
They're far, right?
No, they're close. They're like an hour or two.
Oh, I'm thinking of San Francisco. That's on the other end. Yes, okay.
But they're like very close that it wasn't like, you know, he could like try to do an interview. So, but he did not, he was not working at the time that, you know, so this was all.
Does he currently have a job? Does he currently have a job?
He does currently have a job.
Okay. Is it 90 Day Fiance?
It is not. Okay. It is not. And I will say, so I think from what I understand, I think he was really upset, and I think he has expressed that he did have a job, and I think that's the job he meant. And you know, I never paid for a flight. I never paid. I mean, like he took care of his things. He bought the dinners and the things and all of that. But probably with either money that he had saved up from, you know, before he relocated, or from, you know, from 90 Day money.
So let this sink in. Tim's obviously said that Jamal hasn't got a job, and if anything, it's probably made some people feel as if, you know, maybe Veronica has been looking after him, because at the time Veronica said, well, I'm not going to be looking after him. But either way though, she never necessarily gave the information. She could have been like, listen, I know he hasn't got a job right now, but I haven't paid for nothing. Literally, each time he's seen me, he's paid for himself. Each time we've done things, he's paid. Literally. That's it. You see what I'm saying? Like, cover the situation. But why she chooses to not say this stuff and to cover it and just be like da-da-da-da, but there may be some issues that we are seeing between Jamal and Tim maybe you know, made smaller, minimized. You see what I'm saying? But instead of saying anything, keeps quiet. And this is the thing, we can say that, oh, maybe because of the show, and obviously on the show, maybe they cut things out, but there is no part in this video where she talks about how she said these things on screen and they cut it out. So she literally just never said any of these things. You see what I'm saying? Veronica has been the problem since the beginning, because she's the one who says she wants one thing and then changes her mind. And obviously this is where Tim comes into place, and this is where Tim holds her accountable. She said that one is someone serious. She ends up getting with Jamal, someone who isn't everybody. Tim just tries to say, hold on a minute, but you said you want this and that. Why are you settling yourself? And because she still continued to not ignore Tim, now obviously things are developed with Jamal. But of course, Tim's going to be like, okay, I see the develop, but how come? At the end of the day, Veronica is still the problem. Do you see what I'm saying? But anyway, we continue.
I didn't like, Jamal indicated this last episode that we saw last week, he was trying to indicate that Tim was not a good dad. And, you know, he's trying to also say, like, well, everything she tells me, and I was like, why are you throwing Veronica under the bus? It looks like you're sitting around going, Tim's a horrible person. He's a horrible dad. It looks like you're telling Jamal all of this, and then he's regurgitating it. So I can understand why Tim in his knee boots, but I don't understand why he wears knee boots, why Tim in his knee boots hopped up to make the point, like, don't talk about me being a dad. Like, you can talk about anything else. You can talk about my knee boots, but don't talk about me being a bad dad, you know?
Yeah, and I will say that has been the most upsetting thing for me this whole season. To be honest, it was a rough season to film, right? Just because it was such a new relationship and it was so delicate. Excuse me. And then, you know, you're putting it on TV and you have all these very real things happening, but you're also, you know, letting cameras follow you around while all these real things are happening. So you don't even know how you feel. And people are like, camera in your face, tell us how you feel. And you're like, I don't even know what just happened. I don't even know what just happened.
Yeah. Because they have to do like a IPM. They've got to like be like, tell us how you felt about just him when he said this about being a bad dad. And you're like, well, it just happened 4 seconds ago. And I'm trying to like,
I just want you to notice that the first thing that she even says has nothing to do with even correcting the situation. You know, I wasn't really too happy with the host though. I kind of felt like the host kind of covered her in this situation personally. But it is what it is. Maybe they had a conversation before they filmed, who knows? But the thing is this, right? Jamal would have had this information from only one person. You see what I'm saying? That information would have only come from Veronica. The fact that she hasn't even indicated herself in this part is jarring. You see what I'm saying? Like I said before, she says one thing, then something else. She doesn't want to cover for either one of these two. I already spoke about the first bit, now this is the second bit. This is the bit here where it's like, okay, well, when it came to Jamal on the job, you could have literally defended him and said to Tim, well, this situation. When it came to the situation with Jamal, and obviously, so when Jamal made the comment then about about Tim being a bad father, whatever, she could have easily explained the situation then and there, but she didn't. She just lets it go, and her excuse is, well, when the camera's there, I just go blank. That is absolute BS. Because, well, let's just continue.
Yeah. So I will say, I really wish that Chloe. Kids have always, and bless the fans for this, because this is a very passionate fan base.
Mm-hmm.
That goes both ways, right? When they love you, they love you. When they hate you, they hate you.
Absolutely.
But the fan base has usually been pretty respectful about kids. And
yeah,
Chloe being on this season, and Chloe looking so much older now, right? We met her on camera, she was 12. Yeah. She was 16 when we filmed this season, right? And so just her being a plot point, right, just sucks, right? And it is what was really happening, right? Yeah. Like, words happened. So, but it's been very frustrating for me just in general that, like, why are we bringing this up? Why are we talking about this? Why are we saying this?
Frustrating for you, but why bring this? Why we're talking about it? But yeah, you see how she stood dodging around the topic. I wouldn't say the question, because I felt like the question was asked but then answered for her. But yeah, the topic itself, like, how the hell did Jamal know about Tim's, like, his father year type thing? Like, that comment doesn't quite know. It comes out from because of something that you have said. And I don't see Jamal having conversations with Chloe. You know what I mean? Like, they don't know each other like that. You know what I mean? So where did this come from? She's literally just saying a whole lot of words without saying a whole lot of nothing. Do you know what I mean? And this is where she's been the problem. But again, though, obviously, we continue. Yeah, we continue.
And I understand how we got there. And I will say too, Jamal and I have had some tense conversations this week as we watch some of this play back, because one of the things too is, so like everything on reality TV, all of it is edited for time, right?
Of course, yeah.
This is like a 30-minute thing that happened, or an hour-long thing that happened, and we're watching 3 minutes of it or 10 minutes of it, right? So I will say that there were certainly things that were said that I don't even remember, but that we didn't see, right? That no one can see. And I was very frustrated at, like I said, at both of them, frankly, for bringing up Chloe, because Tim doesn't need to necessarily see how. I understand what he meant, and I did have his back on that, where, Jamal's friend was like, well, it doesn't really matter if you need to see how Chloe interacts with Jamal. And I was like, no, that. Like, that's understandable. But like, why are we bringing Chloe up, right? So now Jamal reacting, I don't want to speak for Jamal. Jamal has his own unique relationship with his parents that may influence the way he sees other parents.
I don't want to speak for Jamal, but I know he has a unique relationship with his parents. But I thought you said you didn't want to speak on him then. When you say you don't want to speak on someone, you just leave it there. Legit. This is why, I mean, listen, once you see the video, obviously, to come as well with Jamal's response, it does make a whole lot of sense. And to be fair, Jamal said he's also going to be making his own podcast and talking about it as well, which I'm looking forward to personally. But, like, legit. Let me just go back a little bit here, because let me just refresh my mind of exactly what I want to say, because hold on a minute.
Yeah, right. So now Jamal reacting, I don't want to speak for Jamal. Jamal has his own unique relationship with his parents that may. I understand what he meant, and I did have his back on that, where, Jamal's friend was like, well, it doesn't really matter if you need to see how Chloe interacts with Jamal. And I was like, no, that. Like, that's understandable. But like, why are we bringing Chloe up, right? So,
you see, here's the thing. If you're saying that you didn't like the fact that these two are bringing it up, why not shut it down? Why not say, hey, hold on a minute. We're not talking about Chloe here. This has nothing to do with Chloe, okay? And that's it. But like I said before, like, she allows everything just to play out. And when you let things play out, it makes it worse. There were certain things that, yes, have to play out, but then there's certain things that you can shut down real quick, and literally you could be the peacemaker or just be the mediator or whatever it needs to be. But instead of doing that, she likes to play out. And then now she's out here making interviews and talking a whole bunch of words that ain't really saying nothing. Saying things that I guess we kind of already know and whatnot. Literally, we're not getting answers at this point, It's literally like, I mean, it's very evident, Veronica only cares about protecting herself. She only cares about what she wants. And I say that, I mean, listen, there's nothing wrong with protecting yourself. But if you're in a relationship with somebody, you can't just protect yourself. You got to protect them too. And if you got such a strong friendship with someone else who is obviously the father of your kid, right, based on obviously him being there, all right, cool. Well, then she needs to learn how to mediate and make sure that these two can be cordial at least. But instead of allowing it, she just likes to throw them both in the same room and hope for the best. Nah, that ain't it. And she'll take no accountability for her involvement. Tim's whole issue with Jamal started from the fact that Veronica said last season that she wanted someone on a serious level. She then ended up with Jamal, who did not want anything serious. that is how obviously Tim started off being frustrated with Veronica, but obviously at the same time, that's why he wasn't necessarily open to Jamal, which made sense. But I wouldn't say he hated Jamal from at the jump, or he had an issue with him per se. He just an issue with the fact that Veronica was being a hypocrite. And then we fast forward now to this season, and to be fair, now Jamal said he wants something serious. Tim should definitely butt out 100%, but Veronica doesn't actually allow him to butt out. In the last episode, Jamal literally said that Veronica, you know, obviously is always seeking for Tim's approval, his advice. That's why she's always bringing him around. And this is the issue. She does put Tim in situations where maybe he didn't even want to be in them. I mean, do you know what I mean? Did she have to invite Tim out to be out with Jamal and stuff? No. Come on now, man.
Now, Jamal reacting, I don't want to speak for Jamal. Jamal has his own unique relationship with his parents that may influence the way he sees other parents and other people interacting with their parents and their children and things like that. So like there might be a bit of projection there. I will say I was not running around like running my mouth. And to be honest, sorry, I wanted to pause long enough because I don't know if you're going to maybe end up seeing this play out later on.
Okay.
Best I can guess what Jamal was talking about that night is there had been a trip that I had planned to visit Jamal that Tim was supposed to watch Chloe, that at the last minute, Tim didn't cancel, but changed the details surrounding him watching her.
Okay.
That made me almost have to cancel the trip.
Gotcha.
And it got sorted out and the trip did not get canceled, right? But these are things that, for example, Jamal would have known, like, hey, I'm not going to be able to come because Tim said he can't watch Chloe anymore.
Right, now I'm annoyed because he changed the plan and I thought we had a plan and you're like, you're bugged because, yeah.
Yes, and this sucks. And it's not anything, and it directly affected Jamal, right? So it's something where it's like, hey, babe, can't come see you in 2 days because like this thing came up. And then like a day later, it's like, hey, figured it out. So, you know, see you tomorrow. So I don't know if that was what he was talking about. Like I said, it was actually like truly, I'm scared to see next week. I'm scared to see next week because, you know, it was such a real moment and it was just such a blur. And so many things happened and so many words were said. And
you never want the two people to hop up, you know, and then you're like, hey, I'm 5'2", I'm in the middle. Like,
was, I have never seen.
I'll let you guys have your own perception on that one, whether you believe this story to be true or not. Because I'm not buying that, to be honest. If no one's gonna literally mock someone for being Father of the Year based on that. That's not possible. Like, if someone does that, then why the hell are you still with that person? Because that means that person is controlling, abusive, you name it, that's exactly what they are. You know what I mean? Petty as hell. You know what I mean? Like, so you wouldn't, like, why would she stay with someone who's going to be like that? Come on now, behave yourself. I'm not buying that story one bit. I'm not saying it's not true, but that's not the reason. But you guys give me your thoughts.
I've never seen Tim step to anyone, never seen Jamal step to anyone. That really surprised me. And it kind of took me a minute to be like, hold up, like, did Tim just also stand up? Because when Jamal first stood up, I think in my head, I was like, oh, he's about to like say something and he's gonna like run off.
Right.
But Jamal definitely has a tendency to like avoid conflict. He'll remove himself from the situation. So I was like, that's what he's doing. And then I see out of my peripheral, Tim's popping up. I will say too, so it actually breaks my heart. One of my best friends that I've known for like 8 or 9 years, his name is Eve, Yves, and he was there.
We were just talking about this when we did our recap today. I was like, she said Tim and Eve, but there was no girl there. And I was like, oh, maybe it was like Yves Saint Laurent. Maybe it was Yves, and that was the guy sitting next to Tim.
Yes.
Okay.
And bless him for being there. So like I said, I hope we see him more because he is one of my best friends. Like I said, he's a great guy. He's known Tim and I when Tim and I were still Veronica and Tim. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Veronica and Tim of friends, right? He's known us that long. So, and I saw him standing up too. So I was like, but when neither of them, like I saw Eve tapping, you know, Tim's hand and Jamal's friends kind of tapping his arm, and neither of them are moving. And I'm like, I have things sitting on top of me, and I'm like, bags off me. And I'm like, hold on. Like, I know they're not going to punch me, but I really, like I said, I've never seen either of these men be in a physical altercation. And at this point, I've known Jamal for 2 years almost. A year and a half.
Okay,
and I've known Tim for 15 or 16 years. So it's not like, you know, I've known these men long enough that this was very surprising to me. Even knowing that they don't always see eye to eye, I will be completely honest. Like, their beef is the silliest. There's a lot of just like, I don't like you because you don't like me. Well, I don't like you because you don't like me.
Yeah, but like, she's just gonna sit there and pretend that like she's not. Nah, don't do that. Don't do that. Nah. She can't sit there and pretend as if, you know, she's not part of the reason why these two aren't necessarily a fan of each other. I mean, but to be fair, Jamal actually said in the last episode why. He literally said that at the end of the day, I don't even have an issue with this guy. He just has an issue with me, you know, and all that kind of stuff. It's as if Veronica doesn't have conversations with nobody. It's just weird the way she says things.
Your ex-husband, the bio dad of Chloe, is he around at all? And if so, like, was he mad that Tim says he's the dad?
No. So we barely have a relationship.
Okay.
We did not reconnect, but you know, we actually talked for probably the first time in like 15 years, probably 4 or 5 years ago, when the show started, because there was paperwork.
Yeah, right, a child, yes. Yeah.
So I reached out at that time, and I remember even reaching out, I think after like the first couple episodes, to like, you know, and he was like, and he actually said that he had stepped back because he acknowledged early on that Chloe seemed happy and that, you know, Tim seemed to really step up for her and he didn't want to continue to cause her confusion. He wasn't at a point where like he had visitation and he rarely took advantage of it. Right. And so he's like, you know, he kind of acknowledged that and told me, like I said, this was kind of years later, but kind of told me that he intentionally took a step back so that Tim could kind of step into that role and kind of not confuse Chloe.
The guy sounds like a waste man. Who does that? How do you have a child with someone and then say, oh, because you got someone else now, I'm going to step back and let that person be the father to my kid? Who is this guy? What kind of clown is he? Wow, man, he sounds like a freaking idiot, but whatever. I'm glad he wasn't in Chloe's life, because what a douche. Really and truly, like what man, not what mother, you know, whether it's a man or woman, you know, what father, what mother would ever be like, hey, you know what, because someone else has stepped in, I'm just going to let them do it.
Now that she's older, I've kind of given it up to her. So she didn't have a relationship the entire time Tim and I were together. At the very beginning, he had maybe a couple visits. And like no one told Chloe to call Tim dad. She was calling Tim, and then it became Daddy Tim, and then it became Chloe, and we just didn't correct her. You know what I mean?
Fine, yeah.
And so I kind of chuckle about it. She has like an annual birthday luncheon with Bio Dad.
Okay.
Drop her off like 5 minutes, you know, at this, you know, some restaurant 5 minutes away, and he presents her with some overpriced gift that is very kind, but not very, you know, of her taste and things like that.
Okay, yeah.
And she has her luncheon, and then I pick her up, and then she comes back and she's like, I got another whatever Tiffany's necklace or something. And I'm like, oh, lovely. It's, you know, that's lovely. So, you know, like I said, she's 17. She turned 17 a couple months ago. So I kind of let her take the lead on that. I've never, you know, kept him from her. So she knows about everyone and she understands everything. And, you know, it's kind of up to her. I will say she beefs with Tim sometimes. And with that, I often do encourage her. I'm like, okay, but like, you know, because again, to me too, Tim is her dad. So Tim's the one where I'm like, I know he said this thing that upset you, but like cut him some slack. He's trying to apologize. Like,
just like you would do with your dad. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but the Bio Dad, I'm like, if you never want to see him again, that's your prerogative. I'm not gonna obligate you, but he's available and I'm gonna support that if that's something you want to pursue. No, the dating scene in Charlotte is very difficult for a person.
I don't know about that comment, to be honest with you. Like, I don't know, because obviously, like, I'd be very surprised if she cut off Tim just because her daughter says, I don't want, you know, to have anything to do with him anymore. I mean, she'll barely cut him off for love. I mean, don't get me wrong, obviously love for your child is not the same for love for a man. I completely get it, but I don't know, I question that, to be fair, because like I said before, Veronica says a whole lot of things, but then she's also a big massive hypocrite to a lot of things that she says. You know what I mean? She doesn't own up to nothing. I mean, can somebody please tell me at any point that she held herself accountable for anything? At anything? Because she cannot sit here and, you know, nobody can sit here, not even just Veronica, but nobody can sit here and tell me that Veronica has not had a part to play in what's been going on right now with Tim and Jamal. You cannot tell me that. Come on now. What, really? Come on. If you think about it all the way back from last season of the Single Life to this season of the Single Life, you know she has a role to play. Like literally the whole thing, to be fair, and the maddest thing about it is that she is the one who's in a relationship with Jamal, right? But in this whole video so far, if you ask me personally, she has spent more time, not more time, no. She has thrown Jamal under the bus quite a few times. But never at any point has she necessarily, you know, thrown Tim under the bus. She can't hold herself accountable, nor can she even hold Tim accountable. So it makes me wonder, like, it's confusing. Like, why is it her and Tim not together, you know? And it's just crazy because, like, why is she with Jamal if she feels like she can't even, like, defend him? If she feels like she has to throw him in the bus, talking about, well, you know, his mum and dad, da-da-da-da. I was like, right, that's a hell of a comment. Like, what's going on? But listen, like, let me play the last little bit here and then I'll say my final thoughts. Actually, let me say it now before I forget. All I know is this year, at the end of the day, like when it comes to Tim and Jamal, they both have been in the wrong in their own right, you know what I mean? Jamal was wrong to talk about Chloe, you know, and talk about obviously Tim's role as a father. And Tim was definitely wrong to even speak about the fact that, you know, Jamal was jobless and, you know, and also at the same time, he's also been wrong to not change his mind about Jamal, or at least give him the benefit of the doubt, because obviously I said before, Jamal has had a transition from season 1, from the last season to this season, in terms of the fact that he only wanted to be an F-body to begin with, but then he said, no, I want to try now. This is what I'm saying. But also at the same time, Veronica also knows, you know, that, you know, but then Veronica also knows that telling Jamal one thing and telling Dim another thing isn't a wise thing, because she knows that right now they're not necessarily on the best of pages. So the fact that she's even in a position where she may say certain things to both of them that's about them, it's just crazy, you know? But then even when it comes down to, when it comes to crunch time, she sits there and says nothing, rather than correcting them both and saying, hey, actually you're wrong in this one, actually no, you're wrong in this one. Do you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, if she's going to have two guys in her life and she's going to have this little thing happening, she needs to learn to become the mediator. She talks about how Jamal, you know, obviously walks away from situations so they can de-escalate, which is fantastic because I do the same thing. But what about her though? When situations get a bit high, she needs to speak up and be like, hey, hold on a minute. You see what I'm saying? Because the crazy thing about it, that last scene that we saw Jamal and Tim standing up and getting together, right? That could have been stopped because prior, when Tim made the comment about Jamal being jobless, right? She could have corrected him. And then obviously once in this situation here, when Jamal decided to make the comment about being a father, she could have literally been like, wait, hold a minute, let me correct it. But she's chosen to not to correct anyone the whole way through. Come on now.
Of my age in my position in life. And the reason being, Charlotte is very popular for younger folks. There's a lot of banks here. You know what I mean? A lot of financial services here. So there's a lot of 20-somethings and even early 30-somethings that are being recruited and relocating from other places. They're young, they're single, they're fun, they want to, you know, hook up with someone. I'm 38. The 20 and 30-somethings, like that's not, you know, again, for Jamal, we'll see, but you know, that's not something I'm generally pursuing. And when I meet men that are in their 40s, for example, which would be my target age range, most of them actually tend to have very young children. So most of the guys that I have dated previously have 2 and 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds because they got married at 35, had kids at 38, got divorced at 42. And so Chloe's 17. So I have dated some men that are significantly older, right? That are in their 50s because their kids are, that's what my parental peers are. Most of Chloe's friends' parents are older than I am, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Even when people try to like hook me up, someone actually did the other day. They were like, "Oh, how old are you again?" And I was like, she was talking this guy up. And I said the other day, last year, you know, and she was talking this guy up. And I said, and she goes, "How old are you again?" And I think I was 37 or 36. And I told her, she goes, "Oh, he's 62." And I said, that might not be it for me. That might be
that's a different show.
That's sounds great. Maybe how old's his son though? And I met Jamal, and it was like such a casual, like, let's meet up and have dinner because I'm gonna be in San Diego. And we chit-chatted a little bit online. And like I said on Single Life, like my best friend when I was packing helped me pick out an outfit for my not date.
But
was it a date? And I was like, well, I think he's cute, but like I'm significantly older than him, and I don't know if he's dating. So like I don't know what's happening. And then when we met, like I said, we just hit it off so much that it was like after months of dating all these or going on all these horrible first dates and just trying to find someone that I could connect with, here was someone I never expected to connect with. And I was just like, oh, like I see you, you see me, we're having this great conversation, and I connected more with him than I had with anyone in a long time. So
all right, boom. So I you know what though, with that last little bit there, you know, the whole dating scene, obviously how it is in Charlotte, and then obviously the last bit, I don't know, I do question though, to be fair with you, because you know Tim knows her more than anybody else, and I think, you know, obviously first of all was Tim confronting her because she was a hypocrite, like I said before, saying she wants something serious, but then end up with someone who didn't want that. I do wonder though, like if Veronica is actually even into Jamal. I feel like there could be a part of her where maybe she just wants someone. Do you know what I'm saying? Listen, we have to be open to possibilities, right? You know what I mean? And I think maybe Tim sees this. Maybe he sees that maybe Veronica isn't that dedicated to him. But at the same time, though, obviously right now, the projection for Tim is definitely more about Jamal being dedicated to Chloe and Veronica. But at the end of the day, Tim has to give it a chance. You see what I'm saying? He hasn't given it a chance, and that's just that. And I just feel like, you know, he's been way too opinionated, you know, before actually, you know, actually giving it, witnessing what's going on. But I will say this though. Generally speaking, you know, the relationship between Jamal and Veronica, it shouldn't really be a thing because, you know, there's definitely things that are missing right now. And I feel like these things that are missing are probably going to be things that they won't even be able to solve until Veronica deals with the problems that they have in terms of the relationship with Tim. I'm not saying that she should get rid of Tim, but what I'm saying is that she definitely needs to address it in a different way, because at the end of the day, this is not her first rodeo. In the last season, the other guy, he had an issue with Tim actually. In fact, the other guy told her that I don't want Tim back at all. She then distanced herself from Tim at the time. Jamal hasn't even told her that he doesn't want Tim around. He literally said, like, I have no care for Tim to be here. I just don't want the guy to always be up my ass. Simple as 1, 2, 3. But yet we're still here because somebody isn't mediating what's being said. Somebody's just allowing it just to, and then take no accountability. Nonetheless, though, you guys let me know exactly what you're thinking down below, and we'll mostly talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, peace.